Hey, I'm Kit Noonan.
And I'm Kaylin Serena Stanton. We're certified coaches and best friends from different generations who aim to simplify wellness for you. Soulfull Wellness is a personal wellness evolution podcast and community that embraces living well your way. No trends, diets, or one-size-fits-all advice here.
We aim to bring you practical guidance and share our personal experiences, even the really embarrassing ones, so you too can heal inside and out and experience your own wellness evolution.
Join us every Thursday as we embrace living from the soul.
Welcome back to Soulfull Wellness, the show that's all about helping you navigate the challenges and celebrate the victories of everyday life. Today, we're diving into a topic that affects millions of people around the world, ADHD. And more specifically, we're diving into 5 problems created by living with an ADHD brain and, of course, what to do about it.
This one's a mouthful: attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or, as I like to call it, advantage, is a neurodevelopmental condition that impacts your ability to focus, organize tasks, and manage time. But it's important to remember that it's not just about the challenges. It's also about the unique strengths and abilities that come with this beautiful brain. So if you're one of the 8.7 million American adults living with ADHD, this one's for you. And even if it's not you and you have a family member or friend, this episode could be pretty insightful.
Today, we're sharing stories from our own lives and offering insights into coping mechanisms, routines, and lifestyle adjustments that have made all the difference in maintaining healthy relationships, managing stress, setting boundaries, excelling at your job, and making sure you get it all done.
This one's going to be a fun one. I can't believe we've never talked about this one, Kit.
I know. We live it all day, every day, but haven't spent one episode really diving into it.
Right, really concentrating on the subject, focusing.
Call these life hacks, call them shortcuts. They're not really shortcuts. They're really just systems. You said that earlier, like the systems that we use. I'm like, yes, all about the systems. Systems are what make me mildly functional. I'm really excited because the 5 things we're talking about today, I wish someone had told me about 30 years ago, and I didn't have to create the wheel for myself. I wish somebody had given me at least the framework we're giving people, and then all I'd have to do is stick my own life onto that framework, which would have saved so many steps.
Yeah, it's super interesting coming from your perspective as a Gen Xer and growing up when you did versus my experience as a millennial. And of course, where you grew up, what type of parents you had mattered. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's a much more talked about brain. I'm not calling it a disorder, you guys. I mean, I truly think it's a superpower. I don't, that doesn't really resonate with me at this point on my journey of mastering it. I remember 3rd or 4th grade, my mom took me to get tested because of my teacher's feedback on me. And boom, there you go. It all became very clear and very obvious. And while our journeys are long and individual, I am happy to report that the 2 of us really do have a handle on this and are excited to share with you guys how we are mastering it and working with it instead of against it.
I've made my life work with it. I was tempted to say around it, but with it. And then just lately, I feel like I've elevated to the next level of ADHD functionality because now I make it work for me. Those same things that we're going to be talking about in today's episode that can be really inconvenient to successful living, every now and then can come in really handy and just make your life a little easier when you don't want to have to do the thing your brain's telling you is so essential to do right now. I tell myself, you know what? I am very likely to not remember this in 10 minutes. So I'm going to walk to a different room, probably forget about it completely, But if I happen to remember it, I'm going to see if it still feels so urgent. And spoiler, almost never does. I have saved myself so much effort from so many unnecessary Google searches.
Right. Yeah.
It was stupid stuff. It didn't feel stupid when I thought I had to do it, but it really was. And I thought, why am I doing all these things? They're so pointless. So making it work for me.
Sorry, I had a thought there and it just totally.
Are you just pretending?
No,
to be on topic?
I'm serious. I had a thought there and it just floated away like a little butterfly. There it went.
Okay, well, you know what? If it's important, it will come back.
The theme of today's episode. So let's jump in with the 5 problems of living with ADHD brain and what to do about it, how to master it. Let's master your mind.
The important part.
These 5 tips.
Let's go.
All right, so our brains simply won't retain all the things we want them to. Mm-hmm. Bottom line, there's just like I'm so over the getting frustrated or berating myself like, well, okay, cool, right. I'm not going to retain it. Knowledge is power. Knowing the fact that I'm not going to retain it is the power in that. So it's hard to access our memory sometimes because there's so much going on up there, like 20 tabs open.
Right.
In the brain at any given time. So our tool for this first issue is write everything down. It doesn't matter how small, how big, where you write it, if it's physical, if it's in your phone, any little thing, write it down.
Lists, sticky notes app. Sort your lists, organize them, color code them, make them audio, whatever works for you. We're not telling you how to do these things. We're just telling you what has worked for us and we really think can work for you too once you implement it your way. You have to have something that you can go back to. So when you're thinking, oh crap, what was that really important thing I needed to do? And I can't control what my brain remembers and what it forgets. I wish I could, because I can remember stupid details, especially long numbers, useless stuff that people look at me like, you're kidding, you memorized that? I'm like, not on purpose. Couldn't tell you what I had for breakfast this morning though, or, things that I wish I could remember. So you have to have something that you can go back to and relieve yourself of the burden of trying to access this memory that is probably gone forever, but certainly not accessible when you want it.
Right. Even something as simple as put a note down of your favorite things, your favorite food, or just like any little thing that pops into your head, like an intuitive download, a creative idea, a business idea, a quote, a thought. You're walking the dog and you're like, oh, wow. That's when I feel like a lot of ideas come and float to you. And the simple act of writing it down, you guys know I'm a huge fan of journaling. This is short form journaling, and it just helps you get it out of the brain onto your phone or wherever, and then it has a place. Then it doesn't have to take up all that space in your brain, and you can come back to it later. Because if we interrupt ourselves in the middle of what we're doing, we're just going to be essentially consistently interrupting ourselves for the rest of the day.
Unlike your journal, which you never have to go back and look at again, you have to look at the lists. Just writing it down helps. Sometimes because I wrote it down, I then also remember it. But by writing it down, I've relieved my brain of the pressure of having to remember it. And that alone is really freeing and frees up some space. But I have to go back and look at it later, because then just writing it down, it's not like it was this cathartic thing and it let it out. Like, these are things I need to do or get on or think about, or they're a list of podcast inspiration ideas. Like, you have to go back, cross out or delete things that have been taken care of, move them to better places, lump like things together, whatever is going to help you get it all done. Because Lord knows we all have more things to do than it feels like we have time to do them.
100%. If I don't write down a podcast idea or text you about it as a means to write it down, it's just like, it's gone.
If I think, oh, this is so big that there's no way I'll forget it, it's almost like my brain taunts me like, oh, you think so? Well, watch this. It's like I'm just jinxing myself if I do that. write it down. If you think you're going to remember it, write it down anyway. Maybe you still will, and maybe you don't need it written down, but do yourself a favor and just write it down.
Number 2, how many half-finished projects do you have? Like leaving the laundry in the washer for it to be mildewy. I can't get it to the dryer on time.
One leads to another, leads to another. We've all seen the TikTok videos. You want to empty the dishwasher. So you go into the kitchen, you realize you forgot to put the vegetables in the fridge. Then you realize you forgot to da-da-da-da, and you next thing you know, you're in a different part of the house doing it. You get it. Make things as automatic as you possibly can. So one thing's a part of another thing.
Right.
For example, making the bed. Making my bed is part of getting out of bed in the morning.
Right.
I don't get out of bed without also making it. I don't take 2 steps away from it without also making it.
Talk about habit stacking. And it also eliminates choice because we have so much decision fatigue.
Yes,
we don't
decisions.
need that. Just another thing to make us anxious. So if we remove choice from our day-to-day, our routine, it really sets us up well. If I'm not on a roll in the morning with my automatics, I'm going to kind of flail around during the day.
There's so many things in life that we're never going to choose if we give ourselves the choice because they're not fun things. You don't want to do them. Who's going to pick laundry? Who's going to be like, you know what? Of all the things I could do right now, I really want to do my laundry. Like, you don't ever want to do it, but you need clean clothes. For those things, have a day. Have laundry day. It's designated just like you pay your taxes every April 15th. No one gets excited about it. Everyone does it. You have grocery shopping day. If you have laundry day, you can have your monthly things, schedule them, and then don't decide that day, like, do I feel like doing this? It's that day. It's the day you do it. You know what? It's going to be so good when it's over. Anything that comes up while you're doing it that your brain's like, but we must. Precursor step. No precursor step. If it was an important precursor step, it would already be scheduled. Write it down. You can do that one at a good time later.
So creating automaticity, wow, basically is going to set the brain up for success. Number 3, the issue is you're late to everything. And at this point, you're just getting frustrated with yourself because it's almost like you can predict you're going to run late, but it's only because of all the other little mini tasks that come into your brain while you're supposed to be getting ready, or you have a false sense of time, so you incorrectly predict the amount of time that you really need to get ready.
Or even if you're not late, you might be, or you feel like you're going to be, and you just feel like you're racing against the clock constantly. Hate that feeling.
I actually I get so cranky. So now instead of rushing around and being late, what I like to do is schedule in time where I can just mess around.
Yeah, putzing time. Putzing time is really important. Does anybody say putzing anymore, by the way?
I don't know. It sounds like putting.
When I typed it, spell check wanted to change it to putting. So I got all insecure about it and Googled it. And it means exactly, wait, let me tell you what the dictionary says it means. It's a wonderful word. And if nobody's using it, I think we should all start using it more.
Okay. All right. Petition to use putts.
Putzing. Engage in inconsequential or unproductive activity.
Uh-huh.
And that's exactly what we're talking about. Sometimes delightful, but inconsequential and unproductive. It's okay. Schedule it in. I have a 1.5 rule. However long I think something will take, multiply it by 1.5. Then I'm probably not going to be mad racing.
The thing that I find the most helpful that just was the absolute game changer for me is setting timers, especially with errands. Let's say that I just can't get myself to run, or I get there and I feel a little bit overwhelmed, like Home Goods, for example, or Whole Foods, where I could easily spend an hour and a half in there. So instead, I set a timer. 9 times out of 10, I'm finished right on time. It's kind of cool. I'll look at the timer and it's like a minute left or 30 seconds left. And I actually allotted enough time.
Well, yeah, it's like a little contest. Beat the clock.
Well, it keeps me in check. You know those little railings when you go bowling?
Yes, the bumpers.
Yeah, the bumpers. It's giving myself bumpers and parameters to get it done.
Which is important. Rein it in.
Staying in my lane, baby.
A maybe unconventional tool. I would get so stressed out even when I wasn't running late, just out of habit of running late, that I compulsively look at the clock in my car. I put painter's tape over the clock to stop myself, because now when I go and I look up and all I see is the blue painter's tape, I go, nope, I left in plenty of time. I'm going to be there in plenty of time. Knowing the time isn't going to change what time I get there anyway. So let's just relax and focus on driving.
Love it. You're taking the pressure off. You're like, okay, brain, we're just going with the flow. I feel like that's also feeding your self-kindness and like inner child, because it's the opposite of the perfectionist who like needs to, you know, be confined.
Taking away my ability to be compulsive, because I like the calculations. I like to, you know, calculate this many minutes, if this, then and then it's not productive and it's not healthy.
That's another thing about ADHD is working backwards. We're like, okay, if I have an event at 6, that means I need to leave around 5:15, which means I need to get ready at 4:15, which means I really need to get ready at 3:45, which means I really need to, you know, whatever, yes, like be done with X, Y, and Z by 2. It's like you're working backwards and you're doing all of these calculations.
Oh, yeah. And there are times where I'm like, Jesus, my whole day is getting ready for this thing at 7 p.m. tonight. And I'm like, you know what? It is. So be it. Yeah, basically, if when you're scheduling things, you think this is way too much time, what the heck I'm just going to be sitting there. No, if you think that, it's probably going to be just right.
A good rule of thumb. Okay, the 4th top issue we've come across is you are constantly looking for things.
Constantly.
St. Anthony is sick of you.
St. Anthony's like, Jesus, lady, you again?
Come on, I've been helping you out for years.
There are other people out here in the world, honey. I can't do everything for you. Find one thing for yourself today. A place for everything and everything in its place. It sounds so trite. It works. Pick the place. Never switch it unless it's switching season. We'll get to that in a moment. This will help all my over shoppers out there. You can't even buy it until you know its place. It has the designated place already and waiting for it. Then you can buy it.
This is like where we give you the permission to be rigid and militant. You're like, the keys go here every single time. My rain jacket goes here every single time. It, again, is removing the choice or the potential, obviously, for things to get misplaced.
To get messy, to get physically messy, to get metaphorically messy. The keys go in the key bowl. I will never look for my keys ever again because I know they're in the key bowl.
I feel like everyone's had that classic conversation with their partner where it's like, oh, do you have the keys? No. Do you have the key? Well, where are the keys? Oh, who has the key? Oh, wait, you're borrowing my keys again?
Oh, and you play the game. When's the last time I had them? What was I wearing? Which purse was I carrying? I've not played that game in years. I plan to never play it again. I do not miss it.
Everything has a spot. Everything has its place.
I promised to talk about switching season, which is, I think of it like open enrollment when you pick your benefits for the next year. If you have a spot and you're allowed to switch the spot every time your brain tells you it found a better spot, that's as good as not having a spot. A little rigidity goes a long way because it makes you really thoughtful about things. If I have to commit, I have to really do the thinking up front. What is the system? Where will I be? What's the flow? What will really work for me? And that forces me to pick what, generally speaking, lines up the very best spot out of the gate. And then I'm not even tempted to change it later because I picked it with full purposeness.
Right. There's a time and a place for flowing and being rigid. And this is coming from a pretty flowy person. But there really is a time and place for that where it is actually going to be more effective for your executive functioning to just really be super militant about a few things. Last but not least, another issue is you feel like you're like the not thoughtful one in your relationship, which probably isn't a reflection of reality, but internally it's causing a conflict and we don't want that. And we've been there. So mark your calendar, my friends.
Yeah, I'm so glad we included relationships in here. This applies equally to romantic relationships, friendships, coworker relationships. They're all really important. They all need attention and cultivation. And it sucks to be the one going, "Oh, it's your birthday? Oh, wow. What? Yeah, I did know that, didn't I?" Like, that's embarrassing. Have it on your calendar.
It's certainly a bummer and not where we want to be. We've all been there and it sucks. It sucks. You want to show up in the best way you can. So we have a hack. Use your calendar. Use the one on your phone and sync it up with the one on your computer. Put all the birthdays in advance as reoccurring yearly, or put it in their contact in your phone.
I do that. I put it in their individual contact. And then on the Google Calendar, I check birthdays, and then it automatically shows up in the app. If my calendar gets too cluttered, I can uncheck it and look at it without that. But generally speaking, I leave it checked and the birthdays are there so I don't get blindsided and I don't look like the dope who didn't think your birthday was important.
Preparation is key. Just a little bit of advanced forward thinking, and once we have these things in place, we're good to go. We're going to get that reminder. We can even set notifications to remind you 5 days before something's due, or it's a special event, or it's, maybe an anniversary of something tragic for someone, or maybe it's the anniversary of something really exciting, or like we said, a birthday. That way you can think about it ahead of time. You can get that gift for Janet on Tuesday so that you can arrive on Friday with something. Even to like a dinner party. Let's say you have the intention of, I want to bring, a hostess gift. Set that for 2 days before. Put it on that to-do list. Combine all of these tools together and you'll be feeling good. You're going to be feeling empowered. You're going to be feeling fabulous. And we know from experience. And that's a wrap for today's episode on strategies for mastering your ADHD. We hope our personal insights and experiences have helped you gain some valuable insights yourself and obviously practical tips.
Remember, ADHD doesn't define you. It's just one aspect of who you are. Embrace your unique strengths and know that with the right strategies, you are going to live an amazing and wildly successful life with your beautiful ADHD brain.
Thank you for tuning into Soulfull Wellness. If you like this episode that you think a friend would enjoy too, share it with them. What a beautiful way to stay connected and let them know that you're thinking of them. If you haven't already, please rate and review this podcast. That's how we've continued to grow the Soulfull Society, and we are so, so grateful for you.
As always, stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep striving for your best self. Until next time, peace, love, and light.
Peace, love, and light.
The Soulfull Wellness hosts are certified health and wellness coaches. This podcast is intended to inform and entertain listeners on their wellness journey. This podcast is meant to enhance, not replace, listeners' care from doctors, therapists, or other medical providers. Soulfull.